Come on, you're being so good. Breathing source. Hey everyone, it's me Curtis. Today I'm going to be telling you guys some facts and giving you a little bit of insight as to what it's like to care for southern toads. Now, interestingly enough, there's not enough, or I should say there's not an ample amount of research and care information online about southern toads, and I don't know if that is because, you know, most of them that you do see in the industry unfortunately are wild caught, and maybe they're not thought of as maybe a bearded dragon in the reptile community. However, I just wanted to give you guys some tips that are compiled in a video to kind of help you care more for your toad. So, firstly, I do have two southern toads myself, and I waited this late until I filmed this video because this is actually the first fact. But, southern toads are nocturnal, so they're very active at night. I never see them really out and about during the day. The pupils, if I do, like, put light on them, their pupils are, like, really slit-like until nighttime right now, as you guys can see. And I'm actually going to take him out in just a second. He's being, like, bad. So here is my toad. I hope he does not pee on me as I'm telling you guys of these facts, and I hope he doesn't leap for his life, but let's just get on into today's video. So as I mentioned, the first fact is that these guys are actually nocturnal, meaning that they are active at night. This is when they hunt for their food, and therefore because they are nocturnal, they actually do not require UVB or an ultraviolet bulb as most other reptiles do to process vitamins, minerals, and all that other stuff. Now, there's like an ongoing like back and forth between is it actually beneficial to them at all if you do decide to give it to them, because since they are nocturnal, they don't naturally synthesize these vitamins anyway. I do think that they can possibly benefit from having a UVB. The second just general fact about this, which is something that people are genuinely concerned about, is getting warts from holding your toad. People think that as soon as you hold one of these guys, you're going to get warts, but that is literally completely false. Like there's no correlation between the warts on their skin and you actually getting warts from holding them. So like I said, you will not get warts from holding your toad. So the third fact is geared more towards young kids and people who are just kind of confused with like animal groups, but amphibians are not reptiles, they are amphibians. They are amphibians, although they breathe through their lungs actually, as opposed to frogs who use their skin as their primary breathing source. Literally jumped right on my laptop. Come on, you're being so good. So the next or fourth fact about these guys is that you can actually sex them by just holding them a certain way. So both of my toads are males, and the way you can tell, and I don't really want to do it right now, but I will maybe put a clip on screen, is by just pinching behind these little glands right here on the side of their head, and not even really, my hamster's like biting on his cage. What you would do is hold them, just like lift them by those two glands right behind their head, and if they chirp, that means they are a male. This is because males don't want any other male trying to mate or mount on them. Alright, I have him right here, guys, but I think I'm gonna probably let him go back in his cage because he has leaped now twice out of my hands where I could not grab him. So I'm gonna keep him on the side and show him occasionally throughout the rest of the video. I hope you guys can hear. And there you go. So in terms of being on the IUCN Red List, they are actually listed as least concern, but that is mainly because their breeding is so prolific and they are found so readily in the wild. However, their populations are significantly decreasing due to habitat loss, infrastructure, and pretty much like what I said, getting their forests cut down to build buildings, roads, and all that kind of stuff, which is causing them to lose their home. So their population is actually decreasing very greatly, although they are still prolific breeders and still technically at this point in time of least concern. So for this next fact, which is going to be the amount of space that they need in an enclosure, it's usually going to vary depending on who you talk to. You know, people who have been in the field for a while would just say one thing, and people who are a little bit more over the top will say something else. Good general guideline that I see across most platforms is that a 10-gallon is good for 1 or 2 frogs. You should definitely not go anything lower than that because you know, frogs do still need space to move around, burrow, hop, and things like that, so you don't want to give them too small of a space. However, on the contrary, some people say or recommend that 2 square feet is what you need for 1 frog or at least 2 frogs, so it just depends on the person you're asking, and that is 288 square inches, so it's not that much bigger than a 10-gallon. I think personally I would just recommend not going any smaller than a 10-gallon. So interestingly enough, these little simple pets can actually live up to 10 or 12 years in captivity. And of course that is with proper diet, husbandry, care, habitat, and everything. But these are such hardy toads that's usually not too hard to reach. And obviously in the wild their lifespan is usually cut more than half because of predators, and they get just eaten up as little snacks. But in captivity they actually do have a pretty long lifespan of around 10 to 12 years. So because they are toads, they are actually carnivores, meaning that they only eat meat. And in captivity, some of the more preferred things that people like me and other people who own them prefer to feed them are things like superworms and earthworms. And actually, personally, my toads have not shown much interest in earthworms when I fed them, but I know other southern toads love them. But some other options could be things like crickets, dubia roaches, waxworms, and really the list goes on. As far as substrate goes with these guys, they are like a burrowing species, so they like to burrow throughout the day. And so for that reason, people recommend either having eco-earth or cypress mulch, or usually any other thing like that that can hold a lot of moisture. Also, a mix of 2 is something else that a lot of people I've seen do. Personally, I use just eco-earth by itself because the cypress mulch is kind of sharp in my opinion, and it's probably a little less comfortable than just straight eco-earth, but again, both of them are perfectly fine. And then lastly, the thing I want to talk about is where you can find yourself some toads. So like I mentioned earlier on in the video, these guys are usually only wild caught. There is a very small percentage of places that actually do breed them in captivity. There are actually like online vendors and breeders who do captively sell these guys, and at least, you know, if they're telling you that they're not wild caught and captive bred, that's the best you can do, because unless you're breeding them yourselves, you actually don't truly know. Regardless, I don't think it's that hard to find someone online or at an expo even that is trying to sell some of these. Although, like I mentioned, just be careful where you get them from, because 9 times out of 10 they are going to be wild caught, especially if you are purchasing them from a pet store. Alright everyone, that was all of the facts that I wanted to just compile into this probably shorter video for you guys. If you have any other questions regarding their care, I will have happily answered them down below. I'm not going to make a care video on them just about yet, even though they are pretty simple, because I just want to make sure everything I know is absolutely perfect before I feel that comfortable giving you guys all that kind of knowledge. But if you did enjoy today's video, please feel free to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, which is @CurtisLassane, just like my channel name. I also run an Etsy shop online where I sell pet supplies for rodents, reptiles, birds, dogs, and more. So if you want to check that out, the link to that is always in the description of all of my videos. If you'd like, you can check out this video over here, which I posted on my channel, and you can also subscribe to make sure that you do not miss any more of my future content, just like today's. With all that being said, I'm going to thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I hope to see you all in the next one.